Authority, and it's always subject to available funding. The Executives Committee will be appointed by the Senate, the House, the Governor. We'll have somebody there from Georgia Tech. It's very thorough. We also have a consortium that lists all the colleges that will be in the consortium. They're more or less a think tank. That can be added to. They can have other appointments by the Executive Committee, can appoint other people to that consortium. What we're trying to do is entice industry to come to the state of Georgia. That's the goal of the whole bill. And I'll answer any questions you have. If I can go deeper, I will too.
So have you met with, I guess the governor requests the funds from One Georgia Authority, am I correct? You write a letter requesting a certain amount, is that?
We have not even requested any funds. We're just using this as the basis. That would be the next step.
Okay. Have you spoken to the governor's office about this?
I have not. No,
okay.
I have not.
All right.
Only with the Speaker of the House.
Okay. Number 5 is Senator McLaurin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, great to see you. Glad to see you're moving around a little bit better for now.
Former House member.
Line 72, the Kemp CHIPS Economic Development Fund is hereby created. Is Kemp there a reference to the governor?
It would be.
Would you be, we're putting this in code, and, you know, if it's going to be law, I would prefer that it be independent of any one personality. I mean, really not even a partisan thing, just you wouldn't want to call it, unless it's honoring the legacy of somebody, which I think we typically do after they're out of office. But if it's a governor's signature thing, my preference would be to do a friendly amendment to just change Kemp to governors with apostrophe S. Would you be open to that change?
I'll go with the will of the committee.
Okay, I appreciate it. I am going to move that amendment at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, but just want to highlight that for the committee. Thank you.
Okay. Senator, Mr. Whip, would you like to make some comments? I know this affects your area, and you were very happy to see this move forward.
Yes, sir. One thing I want to say is if anyone knew, and no one knew because of the way this was done, this has been a year-plus long process taken up by a group of individuals, some who are here, when they saw an opportunity to bring an industry to the state of Georgia. And while others were busy doing other things, members of the United Way, members of the Chattahoochee Valley community all joined together, the amount of resources and watching a community work together in an opportunity that was brought forth to us and exposed to us by a pandemic and by supply chain issues was amazing. Myself, Chairman Smith, Chairman Richard Smith, and Chairman Harbison and others were brought into the room, and when we were shown the work product of what they have done over these long period of time, we saw the blueprint for the entire state of Georgia to tackle this industry that is tied to everything we do, whether it's vacuuming at home or whether it's driving a car or flying a plane. And they're bringing it here, and I'm talking about companies bringing hundreds of jobs that the average starting salary is around $150,000 a year. It is absolutely incredible, and I want to thank my fellow delegation member for carrying this and championing this, and I want to thank my friend from the House, the Queen of Soapbox Derby, for partnering with us on this economic development thing, and I'm very proud. Thank you.
I would just echo what the whip said. I've been to Taiwan and went through some of their facilities, and it's unbelievable, and it's a very sterile environment. I mean, it's manufacturing, but it's high-tech manufacturing, and they are really, really good jobs. And if we can get those jobs to come to Georgia, we got to do everything we can to do that. Number 2 is that you, Senator James?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Yes, ma'am.
You know I love you.
Yes, ma'am.
You know it. And I don't want to do
No,
anything
you're good.
against your bill. However, I'm interested in knowing, do we have an official soapbox derby already? What is it and why do we need it?
No,
That's what
ma'am,
I'm
we
asking.
don't have one already. The goal with that is to bring attention to a program that is very beneficial to young people. Anyone, any girl or boy aged 7 to 20 can participate. And the thing that I am most excited about the Southeast Georgia Soapbox Derby and Lions is not just the community involvement and the attention that it brings to this small community from around the country. They have participants come from a couple months ago. They came from California, Nebraska. They're coming from all over the place. In fact, I believe this past year it was the second largest derby, only second to the one in Akron, Ohio, where the derby started. So we want to use this an opportunity to bring tourism to the area and just to highlight a program that benefits young people. And you know, instead of them always being on their phones and in the house, they get out and they use their hands to build the car, and they work with an adult mentor. Sometimes it's a parent or an aunt and uncle, but sometimes these kids, there's a lot of work that's done through some of the Boys and Girls Clubs, and these kids may not have a parent that can be their mentor, but they can be assigned one and learn how to compete in a fair way and work hard and you know, just see the result of their hard work. And also the day before the big derby, they have the Super Kids race, and that is where intellectually and developmentally challenged young people can ride in a special race where they have 2-seat soapbox derby cars built so that they can ride and have the driver drive them down the hill, so they get to participate as well. So it's just a great program for kids. It's a huge part of the community of Lyons. In fact, as Senator Hickman pointed out last year, on the water tower when you come into town, it's soapbox derby. And so we do not have an official soapbox derby in the state, so that is my request.
I'm for anything that helps children in a positive way and, you know, gives them something to look forward to. But first cornbread and now somebody. Well, I had to ask. I like the chips part.
We had
though.
shrimp the other day, so.
And
we're
shrimp.
gonna-
You're right.
All right,
I
we're gonna
like
go to
the
number
chip
11.
part.
11,
I
is
like
that,
So you
Is that
got
you?
my vote
Yes, sir,
then,
when the
I
time
guess.
is right.
okay, we got one more question from Senator Mallow before we take a motion. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to point out on lines 41 and 42 of the bill, it says this part be known and may be cited as the Richard H. Smith Georgia CHIPS Advancement in Research and Economic Development Act, in honor of the former Rules Chairman that I served with, along with several other senators that served in the House, and just wanted to make sure we lift the name of Chairman Smith, who worked hard on this and who served with the majority whip out of the Columbus delegation, and just wanted to highlight that for everybody, that his name is included in this. It's a great way to honor Chairman Smith. Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Mallow. You got one last thing?
He did work, and he worked with the team that started this off, Mr. Ben Mosier and Ms. Jennifer Bickerstaff, that are right here in the audience. They came up from Columbus, along with Mr. Bill Dudley from Columbus Greater Chamber of Commerce. He was very instrumental and really wanted to push this bill, so that's the reason we put that name in there. And I appreciate answering any more questions.
All right, before we take a motion, do we have any public comment? Anybody want to say anything? I think we got a good winning bill here. So with that, we're going to take a motion first on the committee sub LC 339714S, then I'll entertain an amendment. So let's take a motion.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to pass.
Second by Senator Mallow. The motion was by Senator Robinson. And then now I will entertain an amendment from Senator McLaurin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'm supportive of the measure, very supportive of the measure, regardless what happens with the amendment. I just think it's a sort of a rule of law, clean thing to do. If you're putting in a code, it's going to be an active fund
Yes.
that operates even beyond the tenure of the governor. It would be good just to say governor still gives them the credit where it's due.
Right.
This is a guy who wore a Kemp pin last year on the floor of the Senate. So I would just
So
move,
you wanna-
move line 72 to replace the word Kemp with governors, apostrophe S.
Okay. And you got a motion by Senator McLaurin, a second by Senator Mallow. Can we do that? You've got that, legislative counsel?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would just recommend making the same change on line 9.
Perfect. Yep. And so moved that I would replace in both places. So thank you.
So on
legislative counsel.
9 and what, 62?
72.
72?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll make, we've got a motion, a second. Any discussion on the amendment? Let's vote on the amendment. Everybody in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against? 3. 5 to 3. The amendment passes. Now we'll vote on the overall bill, the committee sub LC 339714S HB 1026 as amended. Everybody raise, if you've any discussion? Okay. All in favor, raise their hand. So it's unanimous. Thank you. Great job. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr.
Now,
Chairman.
who's going to carry it for you in the Senate?
The majority whip.
The whip?
If you
Okay.
approve
All
that.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Next is Senator Mallow. You've got a Senate Resolution 727.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
And,
Please, Mr. Chairman, if I could present from here.
yeah, you can present from here. Just tell us a little bit,
I got you.
is there a,
I'll be brief.
it's a LC, what's the LC number on it, Senator?
540381.
All right. All right, tell us what this does.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is SR 727. It creates the Georgia Creative Economy Study Committee. The purpose of this study committee is just very simple, Mr. Chairman. It is to study the impact of creative sectors that align with other significant legislative priorities to drive resources to rural communities across the state. It also will focus on Georgia's film and tax incentive that has spurred growth in the related sectors, including music, gaming, digital technology, and establishing Georgia as a global leader in the entertainment industries. As you know, this committee passed out a piece of legislation to establish the Office of Music and Entertainment. Georgia's investment in the entertainment industry has created an opportunity to train our workforce in high-demand jobs of the future. And one of the things I'm most passionate about, Mr. Chairman, is to make sure that Georgians take jobs in Georgia, not anyone from around the country outside the state. And I think this gives us an opportunity to study what's actually happening so that we can better assess what's going to work for the entire state. Movies are being filmed in Savannah, Brunswick, North Georgia, Columbus, Augusta, throughout the state. There's a huge spend there, but I want to make sure that Georgia's positioned with this study committee to make the recommendations we need so that Georgians can take the jobs. If we're going to provide the tax credits, I want Georgians to have the jobs and the money to stay right here in Georgia as best we can. We know what the entertainment industry spend is. We know what the film industry spend is. We need to better understand the music industry. We better need to understand the art industry. We've got great theaters like the Fox Theater here in Atlanta. We want to make sure we can study all of those pieces to provide better recommendations coming out of that study committee so we can just know what the direct spend is, where the jobs are coming from, what the benefit is to local communities, the benefit to the state. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I know others are prepared to speak on that. I'll yield for questions and allow the experts who can speak to that.
All right, before I call up the public, I want to see if anybody has a question, but I do want to ask one question of you, Senator. Would this include esports too? Because esports has gotten to be really huge. I want to hear a little more about that. I actually saw an interview the other day with Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, saying that his esports team could become bigger than the Dallas Cowboys from a standpoint of reach. I don't really understand esports. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's evidently growing in popularity. I was in Dallas visiting my mother not long ago, and I rode through the SMU campus, and they had a college of esports building. So I mean, it's really become something big, and I want us to make sure we're at least looking at that, Senator. I would hope your committee would entertain looking at the esports industry. With that, does any other committee members have any questions before we go to the public? All right, we have two speakers. We have Matt Campbell from the Coastal Entertainment Alliance. Come on up. Y'all both come on up. Y'all just come on up and tell us. David Sutherland. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman and committee, Senator Malo, thank you. I'm going to speak briefly, and I'm going to defer my time to Dr. David Sutherland. He's here from the UGA Terry College of Business. He is a lecturer and professor on the creative economy, and including gaming, arts, anything creative, you name it. He's far more in tuned and passionate. Well, not more passionate. I'm pretty fired up about it, but he's the expert. I'm just a guy that talks a lot. Anyway, filming, gaming, esports, it is a wonderful thing. Just a couple of months ago at the Congress Center here, Atlanta hosted DreamHack, some called like the Super Bowl of gaming and esports. I didn't know what it was. I had the pleasure and the opportunity to attend that event, Chairman Beach, and it was like anything I'd never seen. It was thousands of people here for multiple days playing games, doing esports, and it is huge for the economy. Studies say that worldwide, on a global scale, if you combine music, film, and all that, gaming, esports does more. In Georgia, it does quite a bit. But the creative economy goes into more than that. It goes into arts and theater, and there's so much. And I'm going to defer my time, like I said, to Dr. Sutherland. And if you want to introduce yourself and let them know what it's all about.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. At the University of Georgia for the past 10 years, we've been focusing on the creative economy. Globally, it's a $2 trillion business. When we look nationally, it's $1 trillion. And then here in Georgia, it's a question of who you ask,
Yeah.
and what measures might be used. So we know that there is a $12 billion number out there, but there's also a $29 billion amount out there. So the question is, how do we measure our creative economy? When we look at, I'm very fortunate because I work with a group of really smart MSBA, Master Science in Business Analytics, as well as MBA students in a laboratory to study the creative economy. When we begin to look at it, and what we have found is that in states where the creative economy is better defined, it's better measured, and therefore it's a stronger, healthier creative economy. And so we can look at a number of states. Texas is one that comes to mind, where over the past decade or so, they've spent a lot of time focusing on the creative economy. In terms of what's within the creative economy, I think that what Senator Malo has put out is a good set. We tend to look at what the United Nations defines as a creative economy. It's 14 different creative industries, and that's kind of how we look at it. When we look at Georgia, I think what we're focused on in Georgia right now is we're focused on film, music, and digital entertainment. And yet the creative economy is much more than that. As we've said, as Matt said, it's culinary, it's fashion, it's design, it's advertising, it's a number of different industries that require a creative set of skills and capabilities. One of the things that we've started to do in our laboratory is projects. We have an esports project going on right now. We're studying the impact of esports in the state of Georgia. We have a study going on right now in the film industry, looking at not just the direct impact, but also the indirect impact into finances in Georgia. We have a study going on right now that looks at career evaluation, like when kids, do they know that there are careers in the creative economy? And so we are starting to look at that as well. In the laboratory, we're also developing something we call the Creative Economy Playbook that can be handed off to county commissioners, city commissioners, so that they can begin to understand what they can do in their local areas to develop their own creative economies. I could go on and on. There's so much that I've learned in the past 10 years, but I do want to let you know that we want to help. And so I'm stepping up for the University of Georgia Terry College of Business Creative Economy Laboratory and saying we're here to help.
Any questions of either of these gentlemen?
We're gonna watch some of it. There's if you'd like to, it's a
Yeah.
minute and a half, just a clip.
Yeah. How long is it?
About 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Good. That's good. Let's look at it.
Georgia's economy is ranked #1 in most every major category measured by experts. Years, strong policy
That better?
from the arts, culture, and the digital entertainment industries in Georgia have created one of the most multi-layered economies in America. The most visible and impacting investment Georgia has made in building its creative economy is the film tax incentive. This is how it works. Film, television, and streaming companies like Sony, Paramount, Netflix, and others greenlight the production of movies, documentaries, streaming series, and TV shows. These production companies then survey the world looking for locations with incentive programs and infrastructure to complete these projects. Passing over regions and states without film programs, dropping projects in areas with small incentive programs, and then Georgia. As a result of Georgia's Entertainment Industry Investment Act, these productions drop billions of dollars into the state's economy year after year that would have otherwise went elsewhere. Internationally recognized as a huge success, the Georgia Entertainment Industry Investment Act gets better with time, creating thousands of jobs for Georgians. And not just for film, but this investment has spurred growth in other areas of digital entertainment like music, digital production, and esports. And today, the convergence is real, and Georgia is the answer. From remote work trends, the demand for creative jobs, and the desire of multinational companies to locate to culturally rich regions, let's embrace and celebrate the success of this investment. Join us as we explore ways to further expand Georgia's creative economy to all parts of the state.
Okay. Any final comments? Thank you for what you do and what you're doing over at the University of Georgia.
I love what I do.
Well, good. We need to really focus on this. So, any other comments or questions? Okay. What number is that? 5. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that a lot of times things, this committee is no exception, move really quickly in the legislature, and we are sometimes scared of thinking about data in a more comprehensive way in every aspect of our policy making. If we did an ounce of data and reflection on how to measure things and what to measure, I think we would see a pound of returns in terms of our ability to be smart about the decisions we make in the future. So I commend the committee on having the courage to be thoughtful about data, not just collecting it, but thinking about how to identify how to collect it. So thanks again.
And how to use it once you do collect it and execute. Because sometimes we do studies, committees, and then it sits on the shelf. We gotta study it. We gotta come up with a game plan, and then we gotta execute and grow jobs. And that's what this committee's all about. So, Senator Mallow, do you have any final comments before I entertain a motion to closing comments?
Yes, sir. Number 6. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one of the things you highlighted was the need for figuring out what we're doing in e-gaming, as this thing is growing and more young people going into this, and it's becoming more popular, but it's not reflected in anything we do currently. I think you hit the nail on the head by talking about e-gaming and its role as well, and I think we really got to focus on that because it could spur additional investment in our state from other states like Texas. So thank you.
Well, again, going back to that interview I saw on Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, he said, I can get 95,000 people to go to a Cowboys game. I can get millions of people to an e-game. And it just kind of it kind of blew me away that he was thinking this is going to be more valuable in the long run from a profitability standpoint.
It's not just the 50,000 people in the Coliseum.
Yeah.
They're playing all around the world.
Right. So, okay, we've got LC 540381, Senate Resolution 727. I'll entertain a motion. Motion do pass McLaurin, seconded by Senator Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. We've got one more bill. Thank you all for being here. Senator Burns, Chairman Burns. We've got one last bill, and that's SR 747. If you'll tell us the LC number, and then we'll get started.
Happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the committee. I understand the hour's late, and I'll be brief, but this is something I'm delighted to have the privilege of bringing to you today. This is Senate Resolution 747. It's a great plane, by the way, and it's LC 394313. This is an urging resolution to begin the development of a historic rural church trail. And most of you are aware of the fact that in the rural part of our state, churches played a very important role in the history of Georgia's development. And as a quick reminder, there was this place, I think both Senator Mallow and Senator Watson and Senator Hickman know the story behind Ebenezer and the story behind the Salzburgers and how they came to Georgia in the 1730s. And Oglethorpe placed them on the north flank of the Savannah River to protect that city. That was basically the beginning of the history of churches in Georgia. I want to give you two quick other additional examples. In the 1800s, 2 churches were built in my home community. One of them in Oliver, Georgia. It's called Ogeechee, Little Ogeechee Baptist Church. It was a historic church that stood there in the 1800s. When Sherman came through on his left flank, he happened to work through that area on his march to Savannah. He used that church as his headquarters, and he used the cemetery as his paddock for his animals. And then on a third simple example, and we'll move forward, the third thing is my home church. My home church is in Scriven County, Georgia. It's Jackson Baptist Church. I grew up there. I was baptized there. My grandfather, my father, myself, my son, you get the story. Here's the deal. It was built, this is the second church built in the late 1800s, 1880 or so, 1880, 1890. Second church, when they built the church, it cost $300 to build the church. When they completed the construction, the church members didn't have $300, and the builder padlocked the church and would not allow the congregation to participate. A member of the church named Beard sold 300 acres of land in the Savannah River Swamp for $1 an acre and paid off the church. Okay, so what I'm trying to share with you is history. It's about history. And it's about the fact that our churches in rural Georgia tell a story. So what this resolution does is it's an urging resolution to encourage, if you'll, and we can talk about anything you like, we'll talk about in a second, but at the end of the day, look on lines 26 through 29. Therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that members of this body urge the local governments, the regional commissions of regions 5, 7, and 12, that's the southeast Georgia area, basically from Augusta to the coast, to work with the Department of Community Affairs, Department of Transportation to collaborate on the establishment of a historic rural church trail. There is already in place an organization called the Historic Rural Churches of Georgia. And they have begun this process. We're trying to expand the opportunity for essentially rural tourism so that we can build trails where interested historians and people can go and visit and learn the history of our state. I want to thank Sonny Seals, and I want to thank Senator Hickman, because we've been involved in this now for a year or more. I want to thank Zandra Overstreet, one of my constituents in Newington. But at the end of the day, we would like the Senate's support to urge the DCA, the Department of Transportation, and local governments to collaborate to develop a Georgia Historic Church Trail. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Senator Watson? Well, I mean, I got some questions. I thought you had a question, or I thought you might have a comment. Is this because this is in your area, some of this? Yeah. Okay. All right. All right, Senator McLaurin.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Senator, you alluded to the number of your resolution. Would you agree the cultural significance of these trails is both long range and wide body?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chairman.
Long range and wide body.
Senator Mallow?
I'm with Senator Watson. I'll yield to the senior senator.
All right. Senator Watson? All right. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You said the trail is from Augusta to Savannah?
This is just the area that we're going to focus on developing an initial pilot program to proof it for the rest of the state.
Okay,
Okay, so this is not to exclude any area. It just happens to be the area that Senator Hickman and I, and Senator Mallow, and Senator Watson grew up in. It's our history, and I want you to understand that Senator Hickman and I have constituents who have urged us to engage in this and to support this effort. We would hope that over time we could establish statewide trails, both rural and urban. As you know, there are many, many churches in our urban areas that tell a story. And I can point you to a historic black church in Augusta, Georgia, which was the site of the first Republican Party in our state. Okay? But I'm just saying, churches tell a story.
Okay. Here's what we got. We got a motion from due pass from Senator Watson. I think we have a second from Senator Mallow, the Savannah guys. Do you have any other questions or discussion? Any discussion? And I meant to ask, is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak? Public? Okay, there's no public hearing. With that, I will now ask for discussion on this. And if there's no discussion, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you for bringing this.
much.
Hey, this is our last economic. Do we have one more? We might have another one if we've got any bills that come through, but right now, this was important to get these out and get these moving. So I want to thank y'all. I know it's a late hour, but thank you for doing this. Also, our dinner is Monday night. Is everybody aware of that? So.
Absolutely. I would recommend you go at homecoming and enjoy the food.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.